Hey guys, this isn't something I'd normally talk about, but there's been some drama going on with Asmongold, and I thought I'd give you my 2 cents, my hot take on it, and tell you what I think. I'm gonna let you know what's going on, and it's kind of gonna be a hot take because basically I think Asmongold was about 80% right, and then he made an apology video, and that was about 80% wrong. So let's go ahead and get into it and cover this. If you don't know who Asmongold is, he's this big, super duper popular streamer, and he had some thoughts to say about Palestine and Israel, so let's hear him out.
If you want to consider a genocide as a systematic killing of a group of people, they have genocide built into Sharia law right now.
Pretty sure that's true, and not good.
So no, I'm not going to cry a fucking river when people who have genocide that's baked into their laws are getting genocided. I don't give a fuck.
So I don't know if he's talking about the average, everyday, normal people, like the moms and the children and stuff. This is kind of the part that's a bit harsh, I guess you could say. If he's talking about the soldiers, this is the only area where he really should have clarified. If he's talking about the soldiers, if he's talking about the extremists, if you will, the religious extremist party, and getting genocided, then I'm on board. I mean, they would kill Israel if they had the means, and he's going to get into that in a second. So if they're out there trying to kill people for their religion, I'm on the same page with them. If we're talking about like innocent people, your average everyday Muslims and stuff just trying to live their lives, then obviously not. So this is really the only area where he probably should have distinguished, well, who's he talking about? Is he talking about the people just doing the killing, or is he talking about everyone in Palestine? You know what I mean?
Terrible people. It's not even a question.
And when he calls them terrible people, I'm actually assuming he's talking about the soldiers here.
It's crazy that people don't see it that way. They'd be doing the same thing.
They would. They absolutely would. And they are.
And how much did they kill? As many as they can. They're not able to kill as many people as Israel because they don't have as many bombs and as many weapons.
I agree.
But if they did, they'd be doing the same thing.
I agree. He's right. Israel is not in favor of genocide. They're not going out there, from my understanding, trying to eradicate people for their beliefs. I will say this, there's kind of this take going around of saying, well, if you really don't know what's going on, then you need to, educate yourself a little bit more. We'll get back to the video in a second. But you need to educate yourself. You need to learn all the details and stuff before you comment. Unless you don't know all the details, then you really shouldn't be commenting on this. Yeah, no, I disagree with that take. I mean, do I need to be a master chef before I comment on how my food tastes like crap? Do I need to be a mechanic before I comment on how my car's not working and I'm stranded on the side of the road? Do I need to comment on war? Do I need to be a warrior? Do I need to be a soldier before I can comment on war? This idea that I need to go through college and have this super duper intellect and all of the accolades and all this kind of stuff, otherwise my opinion is invalid and I shouldn't speak about something like that. Yeah, no, I'm not on board with that.
That's it. Just takes enough. That's right. These people are not your allies. They are not the same as us. They come from an inferior culture that is horrible. It kills people for their identity, and it is directly antithetical to everything Western values stand for.
Yeah, I agree with that. When we're talking about inferior, everyone gets triggered because it's like, Nazis, Nazis, that's what the Nazis believe in, Everyone is like, that's Hitler's speech. When we're talking about inferior, basically, if we're talking about culture, for one, not only far more technologically advanced, but way more important than that, I think morally. A lot of people here in the States, that's where I'm from, that's where I'm at, have this real negative view of the States. It's like this horrible place that's founded on slavery and racism, evil, evil. Yeah, no, I'm not one of those people. I'm quite proud to be an American. I think it's the best country in the world. I think we're founded on very good moral Christian values. Love your enemies, turn the other cheek, the golden rule, treat other people the way you want to be treated. We're not perfect. We have a lot of issues. But to compare us to, like Palestine and stuff, it's like, well, yeah, to say that they are an inferior culture when it comes to those types of values and stuff, it's maybe slightly on the harsh side, I guess you could say. It's not this real PC, real sensitive way of putting it, but I don't really think he's wrong here in this.
And it is an inferior culture in all ways.
Now, it's in all ways. I'd probably disagree slightly. I'm sure that their culture has some stuff going for them. Some things that they do right where we do wrong, and some things where we do things right and they do wrong. I think overall we are much better. I mean, you're not going to convince me otherwise. But when he says in all ways, that's kind of a really blanketed view. I don't think it's founded in hatred or any kind of BS like that, but I kind of understand where he's coming from. I know why he's saying that. It really does look like, when you look over there and you see how like they live and the war and their faith and stuff. It's like, my God, what's the difference between right now and 2 or 3 thousand years ago, right? It's kind of crazy when you think about it. But yeah, no, so I maybe push back a little bit on that. I'm sure they're doing some stuff right and all that kind of stuff, but I don't think he's trying to be like hateful or say that we as Americans are just intrinsically superior to all of them and they're, Islam and all those in Palestine and all that they're intrinsically inferior as human beings. I don't feel like he's trying to make some kind of stupid point like that.
It is that simple. No, I don't feel bad for them. I don't feel sorry for them. I don't care. I don't support them. If you want to.
So again, if he's talking about the soldiers, if he's talking about the people out there who are waging the war, who are these Islamic extremists who are trying to push these ideologies and out there killing people, then yeah, no, I'm on the same board. I don't feel sorry for them if they're getting genocide. Plus, it's war, so it's going to be nasty either way. If we're talking about the innocent, and I do call them innocent, just the mothers and the children and stuff, and just the family who don't want any part of war, then there should be empathy. There should be sympathy for those people. But to be honest with you, from listening to this take, I think the only thing he's done wrong is to not differentiate between the two. I mean, he probably could have done that a little bit better. He could have cleaned it up a little bit better. But I don't feel like he's talking about just the families who want no part in war. It seems like he's talking about the soldiers who are committing genocide. And then once they get genocide, it's like, well, what do you expect? I'm not going to cry me a river. So I'm pretty much in agreement with him here. Here's the thing, though. Apparently the mob has come after him. And like I said, about 75, 80% in agreement with what I've heard here. Here's why I'm in disagreement with him apologizing. So let's cover that. So a couple things. First off, we've got like the quartering here. Apparently, Asmongold fired from his own PC company for saying terrorists are bad. And that is essentially what he said. Terrorists are bad, and it is what it is. This is the PC company he was working with. We have spoken to Asmongold and have mutually agreed to part ways. Starforge unequivocally rejects all forms of discrimination, hatred, and violence. We stand by and align ourselves with those around the world seeking to foster acceptance, unity, and dignity. Yeah. The same old talking points. One more thing here, and this is really the point I want to get to. It's the double standard that I cannot stand, because there's always a double standard. It's rules for thee and not for me. You got guys like Hassan interviewing this terrorist online and basically supporting him. Hassan has openly advocated for rape, tried to directly get others to support both Hezbollah and Houthi terrorists, and made genocidal remarks against Israel and Jews. Why is he not banned? Because it's rules for thee and not for me. Asmongold said this about Israel. Most people probably wouldn't have too much of an issue. He might get a little blowback, but the problem here is that essentially he has chosen a side. Not chosen a side, but he's saying what's against the narrative. Let's listen to his apology and see what he has to say.
And the first thing I want to start off with is something that I know it might sound a little bit insincere because of how ridiculous this is, but I really mean it, and if you listen to the whole video, I hope you can see why. Everybody who's come and spoken out and talked to me and said stuff about me, aside from the, oh, you should kill yourself or something like that, I want to say that I really appreciate you. Basically opinions that were trivializing the genocide that's happening there. And I don't really want to mince words or try to oh, I wasn't justifying or, promoting it. I said something about it that was disgusting. I said that I didn't care about innocent people getting killed by another force, by anything. And I think that that's a horrible, disgusting, mean-spirited thing to say.
See, here's the thing when it comes to that. He didn't really say that. I mean, it was, depending on how you look at it, he should have clarified a little bit better, but it really didn't come across like he was grouping everyone in that category, like innocent women and children and stuff. If he really did mean that, then okay, I suppose that pretty is a horrible thing. It's like, well, you're lacking a lot of empathy for another culture, and that's how a lot of people are spinning this. But what I think is actually going on is I think the mob has just come after him, and they've twisted his words, and they have come after him with so much guilt and so much shame, and he's looking back on it and he's just folding to it. But let's continue to hear what he has to say.
And I don't necessarily think that it was really racist, really. But when I'm
It
using
wasn't.
language like Palestinians or like the people there, rather than what my real language was, I've always been very outspoken and very against religious extremism. And I still am. I think that any religion and any way of thinking that's going to cause you to put other people in like kind of positions below you as like, you know, like gay people, women, people with disabilities, anything like that, I think that that's a really bad position to have. And
Yeah, it sounds like he's really sticking to the whole PC script now. The big difference between, say, Christians very lovingly rejecting gay culture or other types of sexual practices versus people in Islam actually murdering gay people. I mean, it's kind of a big difference there. So, yeah, I do
I
disagree with
really
that.
don't like that. And I think that my
I mean, if
problem
you're going to group them both in this religious kind of extremism,
and my fault here was that I was making a criticism of religious extremism, and I made no effort. And I feel like almost I've rewatched the clip, right, or a number of the clips, and it's like I've almost made an effort not to draw a distinction between the two things. I think that a lot of us here can easily say that we're against religious extremism, and I am. But whenever I categorize everybody in the area as this like group, then I'm the asshole. And I was the asshole. I had a lot of you guys tell me that. I look back at some of the things that I've said and done over the past 2 years, and I don't think that I've been wrong about everything, obviously, right? But there have been ways that I've communicated and ways that I've acted that are indefensible. And I think it's, looking back on it, it's just disgusting. And it's something that when you get lost in the sauce and you get fixated around like listening and reading feedback and just getting hyper fixated, this is like your entire life, you lose a perspective on reality and you lose a perspective on the world. Do you know who reached out to me?
who
And
reached out to you?
they wanted to talk and have a conversation and see if I was okay. It's people that were Islamic and people that were had fucking family in Palestine. And how humiliating is that? How absolutely humiliating is that? And these were the people I was trying to say were bad. And I feel like such a fucking stupid asshole. I really do. I've always been I guess like I've always been.
Yeah, and again, I actually don't think that's the case. I think what's happened is he was talking about the people in the military, the people actually committing genocide, and in the moment when he was saying that, that's who he was thinking. And then when he got all this blowback and all this pushback, and everyone just started guilt tripping him and saying you're a horrible person, think of the children, think of the innocent women, think of all that, then in his mind, because he didn't do a better job, and that is on him, he should have done a better job to clarify. It's like, no, these are two distinct, kind of groups of people here. The ones committing the genocide, and then the average, peaceful, everyday, Muslims who don't want any part of this stuff. He should have done a better job clarifying that. But I really don't believe in the moment when he was saying that stuff that he was thinking about the innocent families getting murdered and stuff. But I think through guilt, he has convinced himself now, looking back on it with hindsight, oh, I've grouped them all together, when I don't think that was ever really his intention.
Even as a young kid, I was raised Roman Catholic, and I was always very defiant towards it. And I've always had a negative opinion of religion, and I've also had a negative opinion of religious cultures. And these are people that messaged me in like 2016, 2017, 2018, like, I love your content, I love your stream, I love you, right? And now they get to hear this from me, and I just feel like such a stupid, belligerent fucking asshole. I really do, and I'm sorry. I really am. I think that it's extremely fair to criticize religious extremism, and I think that it's extremely unfair to categorize everybody in part of that group as religious extremists. I think it is, and I'm really
Okay, I've heard enough. So, you can find that video of his on YouTube if you want to watch the rest of the dribble and stuff. Um, Here's the bottom line. Basically, the mob has gone for him. I mean, the mob has gone after him. They've used guilt because it's amazing how you can manipulate someone and control them through guilt and obviously fear, but just shaming people and guilt tripping them. I think his statement was a bit on the spicy side, and he should have done a better job when he said that. Of like, yeah, he should have just said something while he was saying that, like, hey, I'm not really talking about like the innocent, peaceful, Muslims and stuff, and those in Palestine who just want to live their lives out. I'm really referring to like the soldiers who are committing genocide. But I never really even got that impression when I first heard that statement of his. I actually thought it was pretty based overall. He just could have cleaned it up a little bit better. But the problem is he stepped out of the narrative. He stepped out of what you're allowed to say, and it's always rules for thee, but not for me. There is a double standard. You got people on Twitch and on YouTube who are allowed to say all kinds of horrible things about the other side, about Jerusalem, about Israel, about Christianity. But when it comes to Hamas, when it comes to Palestine, yeah, it's fine, because it lines up with the narrative. And so I didn't have too much of an issue with what he said. I thought it was pretty spicy. Could have been cleaned up a little bit better. But the mob has come after him, and now he feels like he needs to fall on his sword. And this is the biggest thing right here. You never ever want to apologize to these people, because even if he genuinely feels this way, even if he genuinely feels like he made a mistake, the best thing he could have done was to just internalize that and just kind of learn from his mistake. Give himself, maybe a couple weeks offline. Give himself a couple weeks offline and then just moved on. But whenever you apologize to the mob, all you're doing is slicing your wrists and throwing blood in the water to the sharks and saying, hey guys, there's more for me, come after me and kind of stuff, because it's never going to be enough. I mean, you would think this guy who's been on, who's this super duper major streamer, would know this by now after everything we've seen from cancel culture. But Asmongold is pretty much going to have to spend the rest of his career as a never-ending crusade of an apology to a bunch of people who don't care about him and are only kind of fake offended because he got out of line, because he is saying things that almost most Americans already think deep down within their hearts, but are too terrified to speak out and say the truth about it because they're terrified of losing their jobs or their friends or being criticized. And he was just speaking honestly. And even if you disagree with him, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's free speech. He should be allowed to speak his opinion about this subject without fear of losing contracts or fear of being canceled. And again, if he was on the other side, there wouldn't be any of that fear. And so the whole BS of hate speech and racist speech and this is bigoted and hateful, yeah, I mean, it's completely subjective. If you feel that way, then you can just throw anyone you disagree with under that kind of net, and that's what they do, because you step out of line, because you're not going along with the rest of us. You're swimming upstream against the current. And so I think that his first statement was fine. He should have just continued to move on through and just get back to his regular life, and all the people who were screeching would have died down and they would have given up like they always do. But whenever you do this and you make an apology video, you're giving them power. You're giving them the keys to the kingdom. You're saying, I'm going to let you dictate what I can and cannot say to the mob, basically. The mob that is fickle and constantly switching their values back and forth, and all they care about is devouring. They don't care about Asmongold. They don't care about what he stands for. They don't care about his life. They don't care about his opinions. They just want to destroy him. They just want to see him fall and fail. They just want to be offended, because unfortunately, one of the negative things about here in the States is being a victim is popular. They just want to see you fail. They want to tear you down, and it's sad. So I don't know, man. I disagree with this apology video. I think it has kind of knocked the legs out from under him. And I haven't really followed Asmongold a lot in the past, but I believe he was always one of those guys who said, don't ever apologize. So now he's going back on his standards, and I think they've gotten in his head, and through guilt and shame, he has convinced himself, I'm the bad guy. I'm the one who's grouped them all together. when I don't think he ever really intended to do that. So those are my thoughts. I could be wrong, I guess, but I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments below. Please let me know. And also, don't forget to hit the like button and the subscribe button and the bell icon to be notified when my new videos drop. I'm trying to get this YouTube channel off the ground, and I really need your help, and I really appreciate it. So thank you so much, guys, for watching this, and as always, have a great freaking day.